Well, grace and peace to you. My name is Clayton. I have a new life in Christ, and I want to welcome you to our Regeneration community. Tonight, you're going to hear a story or a teaching from our Regeneration family, and afterwards, we invite you to join one of our groundwork groups, which is a gender-specific small group that's open to anybody, or the step group that you are currently in. We hope that you're encouraged by tonight's teaching or story, and if you have any questions about the Regeneration community, please reach out to us at regen@rushcreek.org. And following tonight's teaching, there will be a Zoom link for you to join either our groundwork group or the step group that you are currently in. Have a nice night.
Hi, my name is Kim, and I have a new life in Christ. And I'm in recovery for people-pleasing, self-worth, and fear. Hi, Kim. Would y'all pray with me, please? Heavenly Father, thank you so much for your persistent pursuit of me, for never giving up on me and constantly reminding me of how much you love me. I'm so thankful for all of the people you have brought here tonight to hear your love, grace, and faithfulness. I pray that you would open our minds and our hearts to hear the words that you've given me to speak. I love you, Lord. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Whew. We're here.
Yeah.
Before I came to Regen, I was a hot mess. I appeared to have it all together, to know just what I wanted in life. As a wife and a mom, it's not supposed to start already, who works full time, I was committed to leading a small group with my husband and serving on the kids' ministry team. I went to church just about every Sunday and for the most part read my Bible every day. The list could go on of the things that I appeared or thought to be doing right, but my insides didn't match what the outside was showing or the checklist that I had for myself. I was exhausted, worn out, and very overwhelmed. I was striving to do everything right, pleasing everyone, and doing the things I thought to be doing. And doing the things I thought I ought to be doing. Okay, breathe. In trying to do things right, I had alienated and isolated myself from everyone I loved. I pushed people away because I didn't have it all together, and I didn't want to disappoint them with the things I didn't have to offer. I didn't want to share my struggles because it was the same thing over and over again, and I felt like they wouldn't want to hear it yet again. Even more, I didn't want to be judged. I was trying to gain everything I could other than what God had for me, and nothing to show for it. I was doing life my own way, and it wasn't working. I was striving to be everyone but me, the woman that God had created me to be. But God, with his love and great mercy, he brought me to Regeneration. Before Regen, I had been running, hiding, and stuffing things down, not wanting to allow God into all the dark places of my heart. Why would he want to see those things? I believed God wouldn't love me and that he wouldn't accept me. If others only knew the things that I've gone through, the thoughts and actions that I've had or done, they would reject me. I would be abandoned once again. I couldn't take that, and it wasn't a risk that I was willing to take. But God, in his great mercy, he saw fit to show me how much he loved me, to show me that I am fully loved and cherished by my Heavenly Father. But I haven't always believed that that was truth. Growing up, my dad was in the Navy, so we moved around a lot. Dad was full of anger and at times would become verbally abusive. I believe he was so full of anger that he didn't have it in him to be the dad he needed to be. And my mom, she got the brunt of it. We did too, but she was the one who bore it all. So anger was the thief of love and care in our family. I wish I could say the happy memories we made far outnumbered the bad, but that wouldn't be the truth. On the other hand, that might be what the enemy wants me to believe. I do know that my dad's anger made an impact on my life. We had to walk on eggshells, not sure of what would set him off. If he became angry, the yelling would begin. If he became angry, my mom would cry, and so would I. At one time, he threw cups that crashed on the floor. I was afraid. I know it wasn't always targeted directly at me, but I do know that it greatly affected me. I felt unsafe, inadequate, and lonely. I felt like I couldn't do things right. I wasn't smart enough, not worthy, not seen. These weren't feelings that I was able to articulate at the time. To me, this was just how things were. I didn't know any different. What I did learn was to stuff all my feelings down, that it was better to sweep everything under the rug to self-protect. The church was a part of my childhood. I was baptized as an infant and confirmed in the 6th grade. I learned to read my Bible, recite the Lord's Prayer, and the Apostles' Creed, amongst other things. Still, apart from that, I didn't have a relationship with Jesus. I believed in God, but I didn't know him and I hadn't received his grace fully. The last place my dad was stationed was Corpus Christi, Texas, and this is where he retired. My dad's last year in the Navy was my mom's first year in seminary. My brother stayed with my dad to finish his senior year, and my sister and I moved with my mom so she could start seminary. At this time, my dad became a weekend dad and would be for the next several years of my life. For a long time, I thought this was really great for my parents' relationship, and of course, for me. I remember telling a friend of mine when we lived in Corpus that I hated my dad, and that I wanted my parents to get a divorce. Being from a divorced family, she said I didn't want that, but I knew in my heart that that is what I wanted. Once again, I believe this greatly affected my life, as well as the fact that my mom was a student while I was in junior high, a most influential part of my life. So not only was my dad not around, neither was my mom. Fast forward to when I was in college, I didn't make the wisest decisions in going to college, not in going, but having a plan and being disciplined to carry it out and graduate. I believe now that I was trying to find myself and my purpose in the world. I looked to everything else other than what God had for me. At one of the schools I attended, I met a guy and fell in love. So much so that when he wanted to see other people, I went a little crazy. So much so that when I found out he was seeing someone else, I yelled so loud outside his dorm that the guys from the dorm across the street came outside to watch the show. It was after this time, with my mom's help, that I realized the need to forgive my father. It was the beginning of healing in our relationship. And now looking back, I'm so thankful to God that I forgave him. What I didn't know at the time was how it was only the beginning of our relationship being truly reconciled. There was much more to be forgiven than I had even realized, until now. I had been searching for the love that I hadn't gotten from my earthly father. He wasn't present during the crucial times of my life. I had felt abandoned by him. I didn't feel seen by him, loved by him, or cherished by him. So I tried to fill that hole with so many things, including sex, alcohol, food, and spending money. It wasn't until I was in my 20s that I personally chose to follow Jesus. And even then, I didn't fully receive all that he had for me. At times, I thought that I hadn't accepted him in the proper way because I didn't walk down the aisle. And when I was baptized as an adult in my 30s, I wasn't confident in proclaiming him as Lord of my life. Up until now, I felt like something was missing, or that I hadn't done something right, but I didn't know what that was. It wasn't until I came to Region that God graciously showed me what I was missing. I came to Region tired, overwhelmed, and physically in pain. I hadn't fully received God's love and grace that he so freely lavished upon me. I was striving to be someone I'm not. I was in constant battle with myself, believing that I had nothing to offer, believing that I had failed everyone, believing that I had to have it all together and perfect before I could move forward with anything going on in my life. I was stuck, and I knew I needed and wanted to change. I didn't like who I'd become, too uptight, too rigid, constantly questioning what I thought everyone was thinking about me. And of course, always second-guessing myself if I was doing it all right. I didn't feel like I was a good wife, mom, daughter, sister, friend, leader, or coworker. I also questioned who I was and who God intended me to be. I wanted to be everyone else but me. All too often, I have allowed the whispers of the enemy to deafen the truth of what God says about me, about who he says that I am. The enemy whispers that I'm not worthy, I'm useless, I'm ugly, I'm not good enough, I'm stupid, I can't say things right, I don't love well, I'm not loved, and I don't have what it takes. But God. I wanted to be healed. I wanted God to reveal all the dark places of my heart so that I could be free, free to be me, the person that God had created me to be, his child, created in his image, full of life, love, and laughter. At the time, I didn't realize how much I had run from him, hidden from him, pushed myself away because how unworthy I felt. Unworthy to be called his child. By the grace of God, I first heard about regeneration from my husband. We had talked about not leading a small group any longer and wondered what we would do. He told me about the program, and I became hopeful. It wasn't until we watched the videos at church and listened to Marty talk about his new life in Christ that I knew that's what I wanted to do. From the get-go, I knew I was ready. I knew it was going to be hard, but I was willing. I wanted to do whatever it took to be healed, to be free from all that held me so tight. We decided to attend Regen and no longer lead a small group. Through Regen, I have been reminded of how much God loves me, that he knows me, and I don't have to be afraid because he is with me. These were things that I knew were true, but I don't believe that I had truly accepted them. These were things that I knew were true, but I don't believe that I truly accepted them. It wasn't until later, probably after inventory, maybe even fully after commencement, that I fully realized why. First, I know that my parents love me. They have shown me grace upon grace, especially during that time I told you about when I fell in love with a boy. That same semester, I ended up becoming pregnant and then had a miscarriage. It was a time in my life when I was seeking the love and approval of anyone and anything that I thought would bring happiness to my life. I was deathly afraid to return home to tell my parents what had happened. I feared how I would disappoint them and the rejection that I could face. But God. I was like the prodigal son or daughter, coming home to be accepted by my parents. I was given grace. Fast forward to now. There had still been a void in my life of what would fill me. My husband at times has a double whammy because I still was searching for the love I didn't receive from my father at the most crucial times in my life and expecting him to fill that void, as well as having expectations on him to receive the love that I should be receiving from my Heavenly Father. As I've been running and hiding from God in so many different ways, I am so thankful for his persistent pursuit of me and his faithfulness in wanting to give me the freedom I deserve. Not because of anything that I have or haven't done, but because of what Christ did on the cross for me. You see, for a very long time, I have been living out every day as though it's Good Friday, the day of the crucifixion, knowing that Christ died on the cross for my sins, but always feeling so unworthy of his death, feeling like I didn't deserve that at all. That is what I've been missing all along. I've been missing the free gift that Christ gave to me in his death because, yes, he did die on the cross for all of my sins. Thank you, Jesus. But the best part of the story is that it didn't stop there. On the third day, he arose again from the dead so that I might have new life in him. He buried my sin in his death so that I might have new life with him, so that I might have a right relationship with the Father, so that I might be loved and cherished by him, so that I can rest safe and secure in the arms of my Heavenly Father, so that I might be known by him, and I don't have to be afraid. He is with me, and he is for me. Thanks be to God. God is crazy amazing in how he works and goes ahead of us to prepare the way and the plans that he has for us. Like it says in Jeremiah 29:11, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you a hope and a future. I can say without a shadow of a doubt that God has had his hand in my entire life. He has protected me every step of the way, even when I didn't acknowledge him or sense his presence. He has been there. I can't explain my life any other way, and I wouldn't want to. This is something that I haven't always believed. It has taken me many years to get to the point where I have fully received his gift of love and grace that he offers to each one of us freely. He wants to lavishly love each and every one of us. I can look back to certain events that have happened and know without a shadow of a doubt that it's by his grace that I'm still alive. He has protected me. Even when I was little, I can see myself in our church and know the simple faith that I had. Through all of this, he has given me hope. Hope that even though I will have struggles, and I will, he is with me, guiding me every step of the way and all in his timing. And because of his great plan, I'm not only able to stand before you now to share the story that he has given to me, but I have peace, joy, and hope that he has brought to my life. You see, my mom has cancer, and if I'm completely honest, I'm not ready to let her go. But God, in his tender mercy, has prepared me for this time to walk with her through this in peace, and I don't have to be afraid.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah.
Like it says in Philippians 4, 5 through 7. Thank you, Jesus. Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your heart and mind in Christ Jesus.
That's right.
I love the verse that precedes it as well, as Pastor Jeremiah has pointed out to us before. The Lord is near.
Yeah.
We don't have to be anxious. Why? Because the Lord is near.
That's right.
Excuse me. He is with us. I have this peace because of him and all the work that he has done to help reconcile my relationship with my mom. We were able to walk through Region together, share what God was doing, make amends, and reconcile our relationship. For a long time, I thought all of my anger and unforgiveness was towards my dad. It hasn't been until recently that I realized that I had a lot of anger and unforgiveness towards my mom as well. It's kind of crazy that I didn't realize that because of how short I've always been with her when we're together. But inventory, the grace of God, and my mentor showed me that I needed to forgive, make amends, and reconcile with her.
Mm-hmm.
I learned that I not only felt abandoned by my father, but my mother as well. I didn't feel protected by her. She wasn't there when I needed her the most. Looking back, I saw how she was in survival mode, trying to be strong for her children, to let them know that they are loved and cared for. But this created a false sense of security for me. It helped me to learn, just as I said before, to be silent, that we didn't have to talk things out or address them, just sweep them under the rug, move on, and all will be well. But God. A few months ago, we were doing a Bible study together, and I was able to confess my anger towards her. It wasn't something I had even thought about doing. It was the Holy Spirit's nudging that led me to say what I needed to say. She hadn't realized the effect that her going to seminary had on me, and she offered her forgiveness. We also talked about how keeping silence can do more harm than good.
Sure.
We now have a reconciled relationship, and I'm so thankful to God.
Yeah. Yes.
God continues to do amazing things in my life, little by little. My mentor told me right before I commenced that even though I might be officially done with Regen, that my recovery won't be finished.
That's true.
I am a work in progress.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, that is the truth. Before becoming a leader, I had doubts about whether or not I was ready. I didn't feel like I had given my all the last several weeks of Regen, and I hadn't finished some of the amends and reconciliations that needed to be done. Once again, I was encouraged by my leader that we are works in progress.
That's right.
I am a work in progress by getting into God's Word daily so that I might continue to have a deeper relationship with Him. so that my confidence will grow stronger and stronger in the Lord. I also like to journal, and I believe that God reveals himself to me through the words that I write. I am a work in progress by continuing to be in community so that I will be vulnerable to share what is going on in my life and have the accountability I need to stand firm in what God has called me to and not to fall into isolation as I have a tendency to do. I am a work in progress by being in constant communication with God in prayer so that I allow him to know all of me, my hopes, my dreams, and even my doubts and my fears. Mm-hmm. If there was only one word of encouragement that I was able to tell you, it would be this. Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go.
That's right.
Joshua 1:9. In this chapter, God has to tell his people not once, but 4 times to be strong and courageous. That constant reminder of what we need to do. To trust him, to allow him to fight for us, to be strong and courageous. So remember over and over again, he loves you, he knows you, and you don't have to be afraid.
That's right.
You don't have to be afraid to allow him into the dark places of your heart. He's already there bringing the light that you so desperately need. He just wants you to be willing to do whatever it takes to be healed, to be whole, to be free in Christ. So step out in faith, trust him, and allow him to do a good work in you. You are not alone.
Right.
I am confident in this, that he who began a good work in me will carry it on to the completion until the day of Jesus Christ. I am confident that I am fearfully and wonderfully made. I am confident that he is with me and that he is for me.
That's right.
I am confident that he loves me, he knows me, and I no longer have to be afraid.
That's right.
I am deserving of his love,
Yes.
grace, and faithfulness.
Yes. You're welcome.
I am loved and cherished by my Father. I am reminded, I'm going to remind y'all. I remind you as the Apostle Paul reminded the church in Galatia. It is for freedom that Christ has set us free. So stand firm then, and do not let yourselves be burdened again by a yoke of slavery. Galatians 5:1. My name is Kim, and I have a new life in Christ.
Yes, you do, girl.
There's something that Kim has said that she wrote that I've just been pondering the last few weeks as I got the privilege to edit her story. And it's this line I know that many of us, I pray that it impacted you like it did me. She says, I've been living on the Friday of the crucifixion, knowing that Christ died on the cross for my sins, but always feeling so unworthy of that death. This is what I've been missing all along. So when I read that, I immediately went to Romans 6 in my mind, of how Paul comes and he's writing to the church of Romans and he says, what should we say then? Should we continue to sin that grace may multiply and abound in our life? Absolutely not. How can we who die to sin still live into it? I start to reflect on my own story. That Kim's story is unique to her, but there's parallels in my story of how I've lived on Friday, on the cross, knowing that Christ has died for my sin. But because I knew he would forgive me, I would just keep on going on sinning, staying in my struggles, staying in my temptations, letting those overcome me and living a life being obedient to sin instead of obedient to Christ. And I thought when I read that, how despicable is it for me to think that I can go on sinning because I know the Father would forgive me. It shows that I did not fully understand the goodness of who God is if I thought that. But Paul goes on in Romans, says, therefore we have been buried with Christ, with him in baptism into death. So that means sometime I have to come off the cross myself. Because I've been buried with him into the baptism of death, put into the empty tomb, in order that just as Christ was raised from the dead by the glory of the Father, so we too may walk in the newness of life. For if we've been united with him in the likeness of his death, we will certainly also be in the likeness of his resurrection. For we know that our old self was crucified with him, so that the body ruled by sin might be rendered powerless, so that we may no longer be enslaved to sin, since a person who has died is freed from sin. Now, if we died with Christ, we believe that we also live with him. You hear Paul repeating himself quite a bit here. Because we know that Christ, having been raised from the dead, will not die again. Death no longer rules over him. For the death he died to sin once for all time. But the life he lives to God. So you too consider yourselves dead to sin and alive to God in Christ Jesus. When Kim said that I live on Friday of the crucifixion, what I started to think about is if we stay on Friday, which is so good. That Romans 5:8 tells us that God proves his own love for us, that while we're still sinners, Christ died for us. How much more then, since we've now been justified by his blood, will we be saved from his wrath? His death, his blood brings forgiveness. But to stay on Friday is to actually separate ourselves from the risen Christ. Because Christ rose from the dead. It's to believe partially in the gospel and to experience just a glimpse of the life that's actually possible for you. Because Jesus says, I've come to give life and life to the fullest. See, Friday, the cross, the crucifixion is just a part of God's redemptive plan to establish his kingdom on earth and in you. Because we come off the cross and we're buried into the tomb. That tomb is followed by a resurrection, which conveys a new life. That our life is different than what we were before. So Paul reminds us in Romans 6. Paul reminds us when we look to the cross that death precedes life in the realm of the Spirit. And this is what Jesus was after in John 3. That you're born not only by blood, but by the Spirit. And life comes through walking out of the grave into the resurrection and the ascension of Christ. See, Christ is our example, and his love is deep into us by the incarnation. John 1:14 says, the Word became flesh and dwelt among us. We observed his glory, and the glory as the one and only Son from the Father, full of grace and truth. See, Christ is our example that goes before us. In his incarnation, when we read through the Gospels, we see that he came to seek and to save the lost, to bring healing to those who are hurting. He loves us and he draws near to us, and his drawing near to us affects every aspect of our life. Kim's truth that we don't want to give up certain parts of our life. We don't want to see the dark parts of life because we're fine with our eternity being secure in heaven, but to actually have God change and conform me to the image, as Colossians 3 would say, where Christ is my life. To be conformed to the image, I don't want to give up this part of my life because I just enjoy it too much. I'm afraid of what's going to happen. But relationship with Christ affects every aspect. But anyone joined to the Lord is one spirit with him, as 1 Corinthians 6 verse 17 would say. And what we do at Regen is really not save anybody, but partner with the Spirit who saves us.
That's right.
Is we provide an environment for you to encounter the love of God, maybe for the first time in your life. To give you confidence to come off the cross, to go walk to the grave, and to rise and to name your death so you can rise and walk into the newness of life.
Yeah. Yes.
To say that I no longer have to live by identifying my struggle, but I can live by saying I have a new life in Christ. And we learn this from learning to walk in the way of Jesus. Romans 5 verse 10 says, For while we were still enemies, we were reconciled to God through the death of his Son. Through the cross, we're reconciled. But listen, then how much more, having been reconciled, will we be saved by his life?
Yeah.
Jesus is not dead.
Right.
He's alive.
Very much.
And it's through that we learn from walking in his life that we can learn to walk in freedom.
Yes, right.
The invitation, come to me all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Learn from me. We say that we've done it our own way at Regen for a while, so why not try God's way for a few weeks?
Okay.
Knowing that he can change us through partnering with his Spirit, through coming and sharing openly and honestly the secrets of our heart that nobody else knows.
with people who will love us and meet us where we're at, not where we want to be or where we think we should be. Because God changes us where we're at and leads us to a place of freedom.
So as we conclude, you'll now see a Zoom link on your screen. We encourage you to join this Zoom link so you'll be placed into a gender-specific small group where you can discuss this teaching and you can participate in one of your groundworks or step groups that you are currently actively participating in. We hope you have a blessed evening, and we look forward to seeing you next week.